General Hospital teasers indicate that a preview clip has been released for Wednesday, June 11, 2025. Drew Cain is cocky and overconfident as usual. Meanwhile, Michael Corinthos intends to take his children out of the country. Continue reading to learn more about what will happen in today's episode of ABC soap drama. Let us begin with the custody battle. The judge is attempting to decide which decision to make. Meanwhile, Drew informs Nina Reeves and Willow Tate Corinthos that once the truth is revealed, the game is done. However, just Drew's desired portion of the truth has been revealed. However, Drew is not the only one who believes they have already won. Michael is likewise sure that he will be granted full and sole custody of Wiley and Amelia Corinthos. In a preview of today's episode, Michael surprises Carly Spencer, Sonny Corinthos, and Jason Morgan by revealing his plans. Michael intends to take the children out of the country once he has custody. However, there is reason to suspect that neither Drew nor Willow will have complete custody. General Hospital spoilers reveal Kai Taylor's confession to Trina Robinson. Kai will acknowledge that he overheard an inappropriate conversation. The young pair will strategize, but what will they do about the Curtis Ashford and Portia Robinson situation? Over with Jordan Ashford, she attempts to persuade someone to trust her with something. This could be Jen Sidwell, and the project could be critical to this purpose. Speaking of Curtis, he summons Felicia Scorpio to inquire about an assignment. Felicia accepts, so this may be about finding Jacinda. Felicia will immediately begin searching for the escort worker after accepting the task. Will Felicia be able to locate her? And what does this imply for Drew, Willow, Nina, Portia, and the other characters? Finally, Martin Gray warns that Tracy Quartermaine may need him sooner rather than later. So it appears that Martin has a plan in place and is pushing forward with it. Drew Cain entered the scene with a confidence bordering on arrogance, relying on the fact that the bombshell, Michael's secret relationship with Sasha and the presence of their child, had already been revealed. He assured Nina and Willow without hesitation that once the truth was revealed, the game was finished. For him, this revelation damaged Michael's image and established Willow's right to sole custody. He reiterated his message as if rehearsed. As soon as the truth came out, game over, which he transmitted smugly to Willow and Nina. His posture oozed confidence. For him, it was a checkmate moment in the custody battle. He assumed the judge's judgment had already been made, ensuring his win. Drew's deliberate approach, on the other hand, irritated Nina. She was enraged both at the legal deception and at the emotional suffering imposed on her grandson Wiley. Nina didn't hesitate to call him out, accusing him of playing with Wiley's emotions and jeopardizing any chance of family reunification. Drew's proposal struck her as adolescent and ruthless, creating severe ethical and psychological concerns. Wesley worried about her emotional well-being. Meanwhile, Port Charles prepared for Michael Corinthos' cataclysmic revelation. Confident that he'd finally succeed in custody, Michael stated to Carly, Jason, and Sonny that he intended to take Wiley, Amelia, and possibly even his newborn daughter Daisy out of the country. He wasn't just talking about picking up stakes in the United States, he was planning a full-scale escape. His statement rattled Carly, Jason, and Sonny to the core. Carly, protective and deeply maternal, tried to turn down his emotionally driven plan. Jason, guarded yet encouraging, attempted to consider the legal consequences. Sonny, the patriarch, was concerned about the possibility of a father escaping with 2 children and the resulting charges or reputational damage. However, desperation lurked behind Michael's determined expression. His daughter Daisy, born quietly after his relationship with Sasha was disclosed, posed an emotional threat, something he could cling to and fear losing. The custody stakes were high, and if he lost, he would lose not only contact with his 2 older children, but also his new, delicate relationship with Daisy. It was a decision motivated by dread as much as strategy. Michael's announcement came during a difficult moment when the protective network around him, Carly, Jason, and Sonny, jammed signals in an attempt to intercept his emotional flight from Port Charles. They told Michael that leaving may have major legal implications. In contrast, Michael saw it as the only way to keep Drew's plan from taking root and ripping his family apart. Meanwhile, Kai Taylor dropped a bombshell. He revealed to Trina that he overheard something he shouldn't have, an unsecured sliver of private talk. The nature of the overheard talk broke Kai's stillness. Perhaps it was related to Curtis and Portia's secret plan or Drew's custody ploys. Kai and Trina began figuring out what to do next after realizing he possessed information that others did not. They were aware that any disclosure would have ramifications. Portia had severe mental distress. Isaiah Gannon, sensitive and loving, advised she pull back, take a leave of absence or at least some distance, and regain clarity. As a physician, Portia sometimes treated herself too much like her own patient, concentrating over the details of her problems when she needed to step back and see the larger picture. Isaiah's quiet encouragement reminded her of the importance of reflection, prompting her to realign her purpose and perspective. Curtis made a decisive move. He called Felicia Scorpio, former WSB agent turned private investigator, to seek for help in locating Jacinda, the escort interwoven into their overall scheme against Drew. Her acceptance signaled the start of a secret mission in which Curtis planned to use Jacinda as leverage, ostensibly to oppose Drew's influence. It wasn't clear whether leverage meant testimony or intimidation, but the stakes were enormous. Felicia's investigative skills would be critical, and her involvement indicated that this was no trivial operation with legal and moral dangers. Whether this was professional, related to a project, or personal, Jordan's phrase, "You can trust me," suggested she was pursuing a deeper penetration. Jens was certainly involved in Cassidy's political scheming, and Jordan saw an opportunity. It was a chess match of psychological maneuvers. In another section of Port Charles, Martin Gray discovered Tracy Quartermain vulnerable, throwing a knowing remark, "You might need my services sooner than you think." He was fishing and testing the water. If Tracy was in difficulty, Martin prepared to intervene. Tracy, proud and wealthy, might never admit to needing assistance, but his bait hinted at a larger financial conspiracy brewing. A plot linked to Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong might. Back in the custody battle, Nina's rage caused Drew's arrogant leadership to crumble. She expressed her rage in private, accusing him of psychological warfare and messing with her grandson's emotions. Nina's struggle went beyond custody. It was about defending her grandson's innocence. Drew's manipulation of narrative struck her as dangerous sabotage, damaging hearts while referencing legal points. Willow entered the courtroom, with her mother Diane's testimony pending as part of the longer arc. But during the custody battle, she was torn. Drew's certainty of victory had boosted her confidence, but Michael's escape plan suggested desperation, which troubled her. Her maternal instincts told her that their children required stability, but Drew's portrayal of the secret baby as the final key weighed hard. Meanwhile, Michael used a cold calculation to refine his approach. He had previously identified prospective safe havens and was investigating international custody law, including treaties, documents, and passports. While Carly, Sonny, and Jason tried to discourage him, he got more determined. He believed the justice system was skewed, and that Drew had already swayed public opinion through public leaks. Michael saw leaving the country as a need, rather than an option. Kai's overheard conversation with Trina was later found to be related to claims that Drew blackmailed Portia over the ketamine episode, as well as Drew's contact with Jacinda. The swirling implications created a fragile trust bubble in Trina's mind. She questioned how much was concealed, how much of her mother's and Curtis' intents were obscured. Felicia's hidden mission was clandestine. Find Jacinda before Drew could act again. Jacinda held the missing piece of testimony that may break Drew's story open. As an outside operative, Felicia moved quickly, contacting past contacts and stealthily hunting down this strange man whose testimony could tip the scales. Isaiah sat with Portia in her office after she had a meltdown. He mentioned the traveler's rule. Changing altitude can help you gain perspective. Taking a step back allowed Portia to reconnect with her mission as a healer, as well as examine the larger moral puzzle of assisting the children of Port Charles in the face of the power struggle that surrounded them. Jordan's quest with Jens continued. She pitched a community program worthy of his trust, but with an ulterior motive, to gather information about Drew's business, potential Cassidy influence, and what to expect in court. Jordan relied on Jens' dependability to succeed in the political legal arena. Her instincts were keen. Martin Gray increased his leverage over Tracy by hinting to financial mismanagement in the Quartermain wealth. Tracy kept a wary eye on him. His tenacity suggested opportunism as well as helpful friendships. The underlying question was whether Martin viewed Tracy as someone to exploit or save. Within this tapestry of storylines, Michael took a minute to chat with Sasha as Carly looked after the kids. Their discourse was measured. She had reasons not to want to lose either him or Daisy. He reminded her of his children on a bench at Kelly's, with Daisy's first crib waiting in the wings. He needed space to make things right, but she saw through the urgency. The world was complicated now, and long-term ties were more important than impetuous departures. Willow grew anxious after hearing whispers of Michael's plan. The idea of her children being taken out of the country, cut off, isolated, was emotionally crippling. Nonetheless, given Drew's actions in court, she questioned whether the only stable home was back with Michael. She recalled Wiley's perplexity over which man was telling the truth. The courtroom became a psychological battlefield, rather than a legal one. Outside, Nina and Drew argued. Nina's tone was chilly and hostile. She insisted that Drew owned to the emotional hurt he caused Wiley and stop selling his narrative like a salesperson. He shrugged, smug but irritated. Wee's feelings were collateral damage, he explained. But Nina didn't buy it. You're destroying your own image with this manipulation, she allegedly said. During the storm, Kai and Trina formed a newfound relationship of honesty. Trina acknowledged that secrets were harming their familial network. Kai's confession, overheard in the corridor, provided details of parental anxiety, emotional coercion, and treachery. They determined to speak up and establish transparency. Felicia returned to Curtis with Jacinda's status. She had followed her to a hotel near the docks. She was unwilling to participate unless she was given protection. Curtis considered his next action, knowing that threatening her could backfire. They required Jacinda's testimony, but they could also force her into silence indefinitely. It was a moral minefield. Jordan's trust assignment with Jen stalled when he asked pointed questions about her motivations. She dodged artfully, portraying real community concerns while keeping her true intention veiled. He was impressed but suspicious. He would look into her background quietly. Tracy confronted Martin and said, "Stop fishing." She was bluffing. Refusing his assistance would put her finances at jeopardy. But she carried Quartermain's clout like armor. He grinned faintly and enjoyed the dance. Behind it all, a bargain might be reached, allies forged, and new power emerge. Michael packed in the evening. He and Carly had a heartbreaking moment. She wanted him to fight legally and stay. He touched her softly, expressing desperation. "They'll dig up anything to stop me," he added, reviewing a printout of Ty's custody order. "I want them gone," she said softly, "but you'll lose them forever." Their fight ended in silence. He walked outside to his car. Sunny and Jason followed. The airport seemed an unexpected battleground. Jason attempted to speak calmly, but Sunny reacted with parental rage. Drew had requested a favor from the judge's clerk to delay Michael's travel documents, but jets get around. They confronted him. Michael paused, slowed his pace, and glanced at each of them. Then he turned and marched away, throbbing in his boot heels. One man against the world. Nina discovered her daughter in Willow's living room, staring at the kids' older drawings. She knelt beside her, attempting to ground her. They discussed recollections such as Walt Disney visits, bedtime stories, and St. Patrick's Day soccer. Willow realized that custody was about love and presence, not rights. Could she give up that? Drew had his own secret party with Willow, her face lighted by the glow of his confidence. He promised stability, protection, and that everything would be over soon. Willow believed him until Nina said something about the heart. They returned home silently. Kai and Trina confront Curtis and Portia. The weight of overheard admissions could no longer be concealed. Portia expressed guilt while sitting at Isabella's pool, her hair dripping. They suffered consequences such as treatment, legal reporting, family unity, or collapse. Everything was unraveling. Felicia prepped Jacinda for court. She purchased a clothing for testifying, legal counsel, and safety guarantees. Jacinda was afraid but determined. She would testify and reveal the truth. Jordan and Jens met for dinner. No laptops, just an assessment. They grinned but sized each other up. Jordan felt the weight of the assignment settle heavily. Martin and Tracy met at the Crimson restaurant. He spoke of financial issues, quiet ones, that could worsen. She bristled but agreed to study the ledgers. The partnership was formed, possibly too dangerous, but alliances evolve. Michael returned to the hospital for one more visit with his children. He knelt before Wiley and Amelia. "We're going home," he explained. They welcomed hope and trust as they usually did. Willow snuck in behind a corner and watched. Ruby's transmission of paternal love startled her. Her heart hurt, but she refused to look away. Curtis and Felicia watched from a distance. Their plan was on schedule. Jonathan, the source, flipped another dossier. Kai watched Trina hold her parents. Family is frayed but not ripped. Jordan waved goodbye to Jens, making no promises save to be loyal. Martin departed Tracy's table with a slow nod. A deal was reached, resulting in a new future. This scene in the June 11th episode had a tremendous energy. A perfect mix of ego, desperation, love, strategy, and betrayal. Port Charles stood at the center of it all, holding its breath as Michael's flight, Drew's arrogance, and the fragmentation of families unfolded in a fragile tableau. Everyone was pushing and pulling. Custody wasn't simply a case but a crucible. As cars left driveways and hospital halls returned to silence, the undercurrents remained. Michael's travel plan was uncertain, Jacinda's testimony was looming, Portia's dilemma was unsolved, Jordan's infiltration was simmering, and the Quartermain power balance was shifting. Drew believed he had the victory. Michael was confident that he had the right path. Others thought they could slow both down. Port Charles would never sleep again. June 11th had changed everything. According to General Hospital teasers, Drew Kane may kidnap Willow Corinthos as a last option approach once his inner monster is exposed. Will a dramatic abduction cause Willow to panic? Drew has shown that he is completely obsessed with Willow at this point. Drew pretends to care about the kids, but Wiley and Amelia Corinthos aren't really important to him in the great scheme of things. Drew's use of Wiley to undermine Willow and Michael Corinthos' compromise suggests that the children are merely pieces in his game. When was the last time Drew showed genuine interest in Scout Kane? Drew is a false family man who is only interested in Willow and defeating Michael, as GH fans are well aware. If the custody battle ends in Willow's favor, Drew will undoubtedly want to forward with his plans to relocate to Washington, D.C. Drew prefers to isolate Willow, so hauling her up with the kids would be in keeping with his plans. Of course, we wouldn't be surprised if Drew pressured Willow to abduct Wiley and Amelia if Michael won the custody battle. Drew could easily sell the concept of them all going on the run together. However, we have established that Drew's primary attention is Willow, not the children. Drew is on the edge of a tremendous comeuppance, so it's probable he'll kidnap Willow in desperation when everything goes wrong. Drew might eventually fly solo with Willow, convincing himself that nothing else matters save the two of them. Willow may be thrown into a hostage situation if Drew reveals his true colors and truly releases the inner monster we mentioned. Bottom line. Drew will not give up his Willow obsession without a struggle. Whether or not the kids are involved in the kidnapping turmoil, Drew may take Willow and cling to his hope for a future with her. According to General Hospital teasers, Drew will undoubtedly show off his wild side as this storyline heats up, so stay tuned for updates on all the shocking news that will unfold. The late summer heat clung to the ground like a fever dream, suffocating and strained. The sun had long since set behind the hills, but the air still buzzed with an unusual force, as if nature itself felt a transition, something irreversible. The silence of the evening was broken only by the rustle of leaves, or the distant cry of a night bird. And somewhere, deep within the forest, a storm was brewing, not of wind or rain, but of human desperation, remorse, and disintegrating sanity. Drew had always been the type of man who people trusted without question. There was something about his eyes, they were gentle and open, almost too much so. He listened as others spoke. He offered support freely without expecting anything in return. But beneath that surface, something older and darker had always existed. It slumbered under his sweet smiles and measured speech. Nobody noticed. Maybe they did and simply decided that someone like Drew couldn't be dangerous. Not really. Drew hadn't meant to take Willow. Not at first. He didn't wake up one day and resolve to cross a boundary so sharp and final that it would rip his soul apart. The fall was slow. He convinced himself that a succession of incidents were innocuous. He murmured a succession of excuses to himself in the dark. He assured himself that his feelings for Willow were pure, even if they were not reciprocated. even if it was completely one-sided, entangled in fixation rather than loving. She was young. Not a child, but young enough to make him feel protective in ways he refused to accept. They met at the bookshop. She worked on weekends and attended the local college to study literature. He admired the way she talked about what she read, how her eyes glittered with conviction, and how she seemed to float through life with an unflappable honesty. She had no idea that every grin she gave him chipped away at something inside him. She could not have known. Drew was not violent. He'd never raised his hand to anyone. He was not a villain in the usual sense. But he was unraveling, and he didn't recognize it until the edge became visible. Willow was walking home from a friend's place the night of the incident. It was not far. She liked the evening air, how the world seemed subdued and softened at night. She was wearing headphones and listening to music that was low enough to hear the wind through the trees. She never noticed the automobile slowing behind her, or the figure in the shadows until it was too late. She awoke hours later. She didn't know how many. Everything felt blurry, as if I was attempting to remember a dream after waking up. Her wrists ached. Her throat was dry. She was laying on a cot in a small cold room with unfinished walls, exposed wooden beams, and a subtle smell of mildew and sawdust. There was a single lamp hanging overhead, casting a yellow glare on everything. She sat up, her heart racing and her mind trying to make sense of everything. Then the door opened. Drew entered holding a tray of food. Nothing threatening: soup, bread, and water. Like a caretaker. His expression was serene, almost uncomfortably calm, as if nothing about the scenario was unusual. Willow looked at him, astonishment washing over her in waves. Drew. Her voice broke. What is this? He did not respond immediately. He laid the tray down on a nearby table and sat in the wooden chair across from her, hands folded in his lap. I need you to listen, he whispered quietly, his voice shaking with something she couldn't identify. I didn't intend for it to happen like this, but I need you to understand. Understand. As if there was some sense to this. As if she might nod and say, oh, I see. That makes perfect sense. Please keep me in your basement. What have you done to me? She whispered. I saved you, Drew explained. You don't see it now, but I did. Willow's thoughts raced. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. She thought about her parents, her friends, and the life that had continued while she was pulled away from it. She remembered joking with her roommate just hours earlier. How could the planet be still turning? You took me, she said, her words becoming stronger and colder. This is kidnapping. His eyes softened and for a brief time he appeared truly hurt. No, it isn't like that. You're not sure what's out there. What's coming? What are you talking about? He hesitated, and then something changed in his expression. A veil fell and a new Drew emerged. Not a regular at the bookstore. Not a helpful neighbor. Drew was raw and ragged, paranoia flashing through his eyes like a storm behind glass. They've been watching you, he continued. I have seen them. I've attempted to stop them previously. I attempted to warn everyone, but they thought I was insane. She glanced at him, her pulse speeding. Who? The others. Those who take people. Who uses them. They don't resemble monsters, yet they are. They hide behind smiles, titles, and respect. I could not let them have you. I saw the indications. You were next. Willow opened her mouth, but no words came out. This was not just an obsession. This was outright illusion. Drew believed what he was saying, which sent shivers down her spine. I don't need saving, she stated quietly. Please. Let me go. He turned away, his jaw stiffening. I suspected you might say that. But it's fear talking. They have gotten into your head. I need to protect you till it's safe. How long will it be? She asked. A day? 1 week? Forever? Drew didn't respond. In the days that followed, Willow observed him intently. He brought her food, ensured she was warm, and offered literature. He tried to chat to her about art, about the world, as if they were two friends waiting out a storm together. However, the illusion was not perfect. Sometimes he'd get lost in thought, murmuring things she couldn't comprehend. Sometimes he'd grow angry, not at her, but at some unseen opponent he was afraid was closing in. She attempted to talk him down. I tried to reason with him. She played along long enough to buy time. She understood that terror would get her nowhere. Drew wasn't being cruel. He was acting out of a warped, shattered sense of love and fear. That did not make him less dangerous. On day 4, he left the door unlocked. For a brief moment, he went upstairs to fetch something. She did not hesitate. She ran. The woodland surrounding the lodge was dense, but she didn't mind. She moved as if her life depended on it, which it did. Branches hurt her skin, roots snagged her shoes, yet she continued walking. Her lungs were burning. Her heart felt like it was going to explode. She did not glance back. She stumbled onto a road half a mile later and signaled for a car. The driver contacted the police. Drew was arrested that night. The trial was messy. There was no doubt he had stolen her and held her against her will. But there were issues regarding his mental state and motive. Some people sought to depict him as a monster. Others saw a man devastated by years of untreated delusions. Willow sat in court numb as Drew was sentenced to a psychiatric center rather than prison. He never seemed angry. I am just exhausted. Hollow. As if some part of him had finally shattered under the strain of his own falsehoods. Willow attempted to return to her life. She changed her phone number, relocated to another town and finished school. But something within her had altered. A portion of her trust and innocence had been stripped away. Not simply by the act itself, but by gradually realizing that people are not always as they appear. That often the greatest threat is not the monster lurking in the shadows, but the one who claims to be attempting to protect you. She experienced nightmares for months. In certain cases, Drew returned. In others, she never escaped. But the worst dreams were those in which he apologized and begged her to understand, and she nearly did. Because this is what made it so terrifying. He did not want to hurt her. He only wanted to keep her, even if it meant ruining both. And in the quiet moments when the world calmed down, Willow wondered how many other Drews there were. People who believed they were doing the right thing despite crossing every line. People who smiled too sweetly, listened too intently and broke too gently. People who, when tested to the edge, revealed something considerably more human and far more terrible. Their inner beast. Not shouting but whispering. I only did it because I love you. Cody approached Carly with a proposition. He wants to arrange a weekly singles night by the pool and claims he can make this the most popular hangout for wealthy singles in Port Charles. She says she enjoys his hustling, but they have theme nights scheduled every night of the summer. Cody notices Gio and realizes he has left the QS, so he offers him any money he needs. Gio thanks him, but says he'll stay at Emma's and has all he needs. Christina enters the pool and takes a deep breath. Gio checks on her and she says she felt she could do it and this is her first visit here since the accident. He suggests she sit down and gets her some water. He offers to walk her to the elevator, but she insisted on doing so. Gio asks her to let him know if she needs him. Christina notices Ava wandering about and negotiating a painting price over the phone. When Ava gets off, she discovers Cody relaxing in her lounge chair. Cody apologizes and tries to bring her a drink to express his sorrow. Christina monitors their interactions. Christina interrupts Ava's plans to leave later. Ava says it's a wonderful day, one of those days when you appreciate your independence, and then she walks out. Gio returns to Rocco, and he tells that he is still trying to understand everything. When he was younger, he envied those with strange families. However, one of the nicest outcomes of these falsehoods is discovering that Rocco is his brother. Rocco understands that things are difficult with his father, but he can talk to him again about that night, and they can all go ahead. Gio is unwilling to discuss Dante and what happened, claiming that Dante means nothing to him. Nina and Willow in the courthouse believe Michael's call could be the miracle they've been hoping for. Nina feels Michael is willing to compromise. Willow claims this is the Michael she knew before the accident, before he changed. Nina believes this is the way forward, and she must remain open and honest. Willow asks, if that's true, why has she been keeping secrets from me? Nina stammers and wonders what secrets she's holding. Willow reveals the news that Michael and Sasha slept together. Nina claims she only recently discovered this, and Willow understands how it must have devastated her to hurt Sasha in that way. Nina swears she would do anything for her because she loves her. Willow claims she demonstrated it by putting herself first.